session, Power BI tips and tricks. Today we'll be showing some cool tips Power BI as we go along the session. So let's get started. Let's call out for the amazing sponsors today for Scottish Summit, Triparna, DQ Global, Proxima 3, Redspire, Adilus, and Hitachi Solutions. So before we get a brief background about myself, this is Triparna and I have been with Microsoft practice for last, and I have been working in the architect soft analytics area. So I am specializing in since inception and the report for Power BI, BI solution in different domains. You can reach out to any of these social handles, Twitter, Ray123, or me a connection request, or maybe many of you are already in connection, just send me a mail in gmail.com. Now moving on to today's session. So a large part of the business users, the end users we work with in terms of implementing a solution, they are using my Excel because that has been the go tool for the BIs for all the end users. And the way they visualize the data, and work with the data with Excel, they are convenient and confident about the way they work. But as they make a move toward BI, as Power BI emerged as a enterprise tool as a serve as well, so they should have the similar kind of look and in Power BI as well to give that kind of confidence going forward. So many times we come at this kind of question that I do it in Excel, why can't in Power BI? So the clients that we were working on, the global leading manufacturer of snacks and beverage, and the end users for that company make a move. And when they to us, they were having citations. We have to go back and think that how we can use Power BI features or work around or hack some features and give them that kind of features and ability to their data visualization that they can get that back and they can move on with BI. Because Power BI is quite a tool. It works with a data set in the background and they cannot do a simple thing like sorting, move up and down as they used to do in Excel. So today I will be covering the scenarios that we came across and we have implemented over time where we give them kind of feelings that, okay, the way we can do it. Let's see how we get these issues, our problems or users, and we have come up with the solution. So first one, I will be talking about the forecast, how to add a forecast. For example, we have a very common simple data set, which is like for the sales or volume showing over a period of time. And the company wants to see that what will be my projection or the forecast till the end of this year. For example, you can see in the screen, the transaction volume we have till from January to March. And in March, it has started showing the dip due to pandemic. And they would like to see how it will fare if it continues like this till end of 2020. Now let's hop Power BI to see how to do that. So this is the Power BI desktop PBIX, and this is the we work with all the visuals. Now one of the visuals, the transaction volume, which is here, select that to implement forecast. So this tab used for access and ledger, and this tab for the properties tab. This is not by us. This is the advanced tab out of the box in Power, and we can leverage that any core or any complex configuration can have forecast lines drawn. So we forecast here, add it, any name, and then in the forecast length we are interested in next because we have the data. And then we go here to last this. And then the level is like the interval we put here, which controls the range of the upper range of the forecast. There are variables which contribute forecasting, right? So important to show the range, in example, he will fall in the next months. So that will vary if you have the interval here. And so if you have seasonality or things like it sells in more and these kind of things you want to take into consideration for be useful seasonality here. And just all these details and apply and boom, it's here. Just fix, we will be able to serve action volume showing the next 9 months. And done by the box algorithm in which is the exponential smoothing. But in some cases, what happens, companies, they have their own customized algorithm which they want to put in place in terms of some forecasting mechanism. So they can have some machine learning models run, or in some way they have the output from their forecast and they can put as a data set, which can be again visualized in Power BI. But here we are just showing how we can do it with the out of the box Power BI mechanism. Let's move on to the next one. This is the measure slicer. So we work with measures like values when we work with reports or dashboards, right? So these measures, when we work with a number of measures or values in a report or dashboard, then sometimes what happens that all the measures may not be applicable in context at a certain point in time. Giving an example in this context will be a dashboard which has data across multiple countries. And when we see this data, some of the measures will be applicable for some countries, whereas the others will be applicable for other countries. And we can have them shown one by one here, right? But it will be more convenient for the users if they can switch between the measures depending upon which countries. They can just select the measure in a slicer and they can see only that applicable values, because the other value will be 0 for them, right? If we show both next to each other. Just head on to Power BI to show how we can do this. So we measure here where we can just show that, okay, and sales and cost here. And we have brought a simple slicer here. And the value is drawn by an independent list. We can have it here. And how to make that, we can just bring a simple table visual. And we can write a simple DAX code. So showing you the DAX, about the DAX, I will just show a simple DAX. DAX is a function language which was like intro for Power Pivot for Excel. So Excel users are very close to it, but then extended analysis service and to Power BI. This language helps us to have small code snippets like this to the simple complex problems across multiple tables. It helps us to take or extend our visuals and take the analytics next level. So this is a simple dashboard, for example, sum of particular measure, which is being put in the measure called cost. So like we will just create a new measure. I've just clicked a column. We need a new measure. So we have a new measure here, and for the interest of time, I have this code snippet here, which is straightforward. The sales, oh, that is just a name of the measure. You get anything you like. Then we have a variable declared here called value. And the value of the user, which is just an independent list values, which is being stored here. And it has a switch function here, which dynamically returns the sales or cost depending upon your slicer selection. So we have that. We can bring this here, just this particular one. We have this date field here, and we have this sales by cost. And this is shown here, and the way we can toggle is we can just select cells. We can have that. So that's how easy it is. Now let's move to the next. Image grid. Image grid is something that is really useful. For example, we have a scenario like we have a dashboard again for multiple countries. And for multiple countries, we will have this flag for the multiple countries to be shown. And it has to be shown dynamically. Like, for example, in Excel, they can have all these flag of the countries sitting side by side. And here we can see that how we can show in Power BI is whatever countries are selected, we can just bring those images and we can just show in a form of a grid. Let's see in Power BI how we can implement that. So This is just a simple so that I already have with the name of the countries. And to get, we will just go to get more visuals, import that custom visual called image grid. Once we have this place, we just need to select here. Just let's give a little bit. And we have the tags in a column called image. And one thing I have to show here is the image is the data category as image URL. And then this image, we are just putting it here. It is getting all the flags from the Power BI data set, because in this case, I've just embedded the images of the respective country Power BI set. But it can be done any dynamic sources, for example, Azure Blob Storage, and the link that I have given in my reference sections, my deck. So let's move on. Now here we have these, as we can see here, there are some couple of settings which is really useful. I'd like to show. Here we can have the max width and how many can come single row, and then the type, like for example the weighted circles, like the size of the flags will vary on depending on the values. And then we have grid, which is like shown in the grid format, so that it show different images of particular visual, and which is useful. So if we have Germany now, so Germany will also add it to the list. So Germany, so really useful for us. So that's how we have seen that how we have, for example, we have other use cases like, for example, some products. So depending upon the number of products being selected, we want to see the journey of the product or the sales of the product, etc. And we would like to see all the products coming on the top dynamically, the images are being shown. So this image grid is really helpful for those kind of purposes. For the next one, we would like to see the Enlightened slicer. This is also another custom visual, but we will just see that why we need this, how it adds values to us. That is, for one of the normal slicers, the standard slicers out of the box in Power BI, what we can see is if we select March, then it is just shows March, and whatever other data is there, data points are completely hidden from the visual. Whereas for the Enlightened slicer, we can just see that, okay, if we select March, then March is highlighted, whereas all the other data points are still visible, and we can see that where our data stands. So this is really helpful, and let's see from BI perspective how we can implement that. So first, let's see how a visual works. So if we select on the March, then it just show March. And for the Enlightened slicer, we just need to here again in the marketplace, get visual. And once it appears, then let's, okay, this is the Enlightened slicer, we can add it. So we can just bring this and just add the month and year we have. But it appears like this because it's shown in a horizontal form. We can just here change it to vertical form. And just to show it in a better way, we can filter the data. You can see here how filter it also. With advanced filtering, we can just select show the items contains 20. And here we can show that, okay, if we select March, then it highlights March, whereas the user gets a visual appeal, okay, where this stands. So the Enlightened slide box, it's really adds without having a line of code or any complex configuration. It gives it that how it's hides that instead of the standard visuals, it shows the complete visibility of other values in a simple bar chart. For the next one, it is the dynamic axis. So dynamic axis is really helpful, because if we have some requirement, for example, we have a feedback app, and the feedback app gives us like excellent, good, and needs improvement, right? This kind of feedback and the count of the feedback over a period of time. And whereas we have another in another category, we would like to show that the channels of feedback has come, like through calls, through newspaper, or through website. And how we can do it is a trick which will be shared now. So I would also like to highlight here that how we can do it in another way, use bookmark as well. So just to give a brief background of bookmark, like bookmark is something that we usually use for hiding or showing something in Power BI. For example, we click this, show this, we click another button and we show another visual. So in the background, two visuals overlapped, and then they are being shown in this fashion that it appears that, okay, we are switching windows. But from development perspective, we would like to need to create two visuals, develop it, and maintain it. If tomorrow we would like to change, for example, a font in the visual, so we have to do it in both. Whereas this particular solution gives us a very smart and interesting way of implementing it using a single visual, which is not overlapped. So I will just bring a simple chart here. And again, we will use a small calculated column. So we can have this new column here. And just for the interest of time, I have once again. This is also a very simple bit of code, like saying that this is the dynamic axis. You can give a name you like, and then dynamic axis category, it checks that if it is search, then just setting, or else just pass a month and the year. What's there? Yes, enter. And it is there. How we can bring this in the axis, we just bring that column, and then we can just bring this rating, account of the rating here. So let's see how it's. If this search, then we can see another thing I will show as the dynamic axis showing up here. This is also a common trick in Power BI. When we don't want to show any, then we just replace it with a dot. And this is having this category, then this axis is showing newspaper and website. Whereas when we search category, then it shows the feedbacks over a period of time. So this way we can implement a dynamic axis chart, and which is helpful. So this way we learned that how in the same visual we can just avoid creating tens of bookmarks, and we can just have in a particular visual where the axis is working dynamically based on your selection. Now let's move on to the waterfall chart. So waterfall chart is something which is like out of the box available in Power BI, but it only supports non-stacked ones, which is just, it will see the one measure, and depending upon that, it will show the waterfall chart. But we have a requirement which is like a waterfall chart. If you see this, then here it looks like this. Much more customization is there. Like it has some values which are shown as negative, red, and positive, green has this, and it says like that. So if we have a requirement like this, then it is required for us to see how we can implement this. So the requirement is a bit complex. So the implementation needs to step-by-step consideration, but we can show how we have done it in Power BI. So for this, see the end result is how they wanted it. The bar stacked, we have the positive values and the negative values, and the coloring as it is required when one bar is in a different color. So everything optimized here. Now let's go to the data and select the one which is a data set for this particular. What is particular data set showing that waste baseline like different supply, and these are the amount field, for example. And here all these stacks which in each of these under this bar. Then we have this negative, and something we have negative under, and some as with these what we are doing is we have something dummy. So we are using sets, and we are manipulating data in the back end to use a front end to in this kind of field. So this visual outcome is possible if these, so we have but in the front we did it by making the background as simple that in a minute. So just have this dummy, for example, positive will be shown in red, shown in green, because it's something like a movement we are doing. And then we have by one. So this is the way nice, and then the front end this outcome. And here we have that we have stacked all these on basis of this. We can show for the supply chain and all these stacks were another of these bars. Here for the plan initiative of events, we have the data point, but that are hidden through the conditional here. And these and red is whether it is positive or negative in the data set. Then we in conditionally formatting these, and finally we have. And for the legend, we don't have the legend switched here. If the legend, then we do switch off, because if on the legend here, I will just show, then will come for all and everything like, and we don't. So what we need to do is we switch off. We need to take these stacks and only have and take us to that and use it as an image for the legend to make it more full. Thirdly, what we kind of requirement is that it come in this sorting one by one by one, and we are sort description usually by description. If we sort it, then it will be sorted in the alphabetical, and in that sense the best in class should come in the first, but not. For that we can just use Power BI here. So for describe this to be, but in the background we want to by sort alpha. We can the previous year by sort, and planned B C. So doing it in the coming effect like this. I can understand that it's a bit complex at this stage, but once we go through it and you will have the slides and the recordings, then if we follow step by step and see the data set and what is done in the front end in the Power BI file, then it will be quite clear. Now moving on to the next one, that is the Heatmap. Heatmap is something that is available in Power BI, but it just have only one measure it supports. But we have a requirement, like some of the users were working in a project in Tableau, and where more than one measure is supported. So they wanted the same look and feel and more than one measure, so that they can see that, okay, versus last year, this is the thing, or versus deduction, this is the thing. So how we can do it in Power BI, have their look and feel. What we have done is, instead of using map, the standard visual, we have used the matrix, the standard. And what we have done is we have used, so for that, we have a measure here, which is sales deductions. And what we have done is this we used as a value. Here what is just having the sales amount, and you 10 for a line feed, and again then the rest values, and if this is not, then we are passing it as a. So this is also a DAX code which helps us to connect each of these values and show them a single in our matrix, and using this one sales reduction in our values. And then for the code which we usually have map, we have just here as in additional form, like the sales versus deductions, and the background just switched it on. And in the advanced, we just have these ranges and the respective color coding. It can be done as per our requirement, and it gives us a look and feel of these. If we see, we can month and value gets changed automatically. So this is the works we can give and feel of the heat map using a standard visual for matrix from Power BI. And end of the day, we achieve a look and feel which is similar to a third-party tool called Tableau. Now, moving on to this one, which is again another trick, which is using the Power BI out-of-the-box tool, and it is like a simple properties we are using in Power BI, but which will give a huge visual appeal to the users, and it will be really helpful. Let's see what is being done here. So we have a bar chart. It's a simple bar chart where we can see like the figures for net sales amount for a few of the months here. But we have data, but we cannot see it. If we scroll it, we can see it. Whereas here, it looks much better, right? We can have the complete visibility till December at one glance. So for that, what we do is we have the space. You can see how it works. It's a simple bar chart, and we can just scroll it, and we can see other figures. To make everything together, what we can do is just going to the x-axis. We just went to the category width and make it T. That's it. Till it's here. And it gives us more granular. For example, you would like to control the padding. So if we, instead of 40, make it 20, and it is there. So really helps for us without a single of code or a single complex configuration. We are able to show all the net sales count for entire one go. Now, surely the 6 tricks that we went through is not an exhaustive list. So let's walk through how I get the best solution. So first, when a problem comes, we need to evaluate. So understand the visual, identify the components that we have here, come back to Power BI in the next stage and see what is the limitations in Power BI, what is the product gaps. Third one is having the workaround. So it is not available at this moment in Power BI, but as Power BI is an incremental tool, it will be, may or may not come in future. But at this moment, we need to find a workaround. So what is that? We can either look for a custom visual, just look for the certified one because they are tested and validated. We can have the existing feature, or we can hack a feature. So like the last example we have seen, that is for the existing feature, right? And hacker feature is like the stacked column chart, which we have used for a waterfall chart. So these kind of tricks and tips, if we apply and we come up with a workaround, next step will be to implement it and to share it with the community, with your friends and team members, and submit our idea in Power BI. I have just included the link here, ideas.powerbi.com. Then maybe, you don't know, tomorrow it may be picked up by the Power BI development team and it can be made out of the box available for you. Here for the references for DAX, I have just given some of the snippets once again. Let's see, for measure slicer, we have just used a variable and we have just used the switch function here to return the respective slices. And then for the dynamic axis, we have used the if condition and related functions here. And for the heat map, we have just used a code snippet where it is concatenated to value here. If you want to know more, then there are a lot of like code snippets and functions available in community from various users, and if you're really interested, then you can go through that. It really helps us to extend our visuals and take our analytics to the next level. Now coming to the further references for tips and tricks, one is the Azure Blob Storage for getting the dynamic map images, flag images, which I mentioned. So this link will give us the step-by-step that how we can do that. And next one is the refresh Power BI dataset externally. So what it will do is we have some requirements sometimes where we see this as we don't know when the data will be loaded. It may be weekly, it may be monthly, and we don't want to schedule it in a particular interval in Power BI service. As many of us know that Power BI service will have an option to set the schedule the dataset refresh for the reports and the dashboards, but it can be externally triggered. For example, at the end of the data pipeline, whenever the data loaded ends. So it's a bit tricky, but this link is useful for us to understand whatever we need to do step by step. And the last one here is the incremental refresh one for the large tables. So for example, we have some fact tables. And in this fact tables, we don't want to refresh the entire data at any point of time. We can't afford to. So we just need to get the latest data which is coming through. And this is completely out of the box in Power BI with some clicks. And just one thing we need to keep in mind here, that we need a date time field in that particular table for configuring this, so that it just takes the latest dates after whatever it has last loaded. Then I've just included here the DAX guide. And finally, the Power BI demo file, which I'm referring here, a OneDrive link is there, where it will be possible to download and see the data sets and the tricks we used here. Wow, how to believe we are already at and hopefully at least one thing from the session to be able to apply. It will be helpful for you. You will be received back form, and I want to hear that what you have learned. If you can drop it in the survey. If you have really a session, I would say you can look at other sessions in Scottish Summit. More on Power BI area coming from Rui Romano, and some of the financial data side from Rishi Sap really interesting. And for this, if you talk or have any specific questions for the approach that we have gone through, then just feel free to me in any of these are listed here. And thank you for your time. And forward to hear from you how the tips are, and connect you during the. Thank you. Thanks for your time.